Well, what do you think the #1 consensus request is from Idahoans to the state? According to the recent public policy report published by Boise State, the answer is a voter guide. In Idaho, unlike some of our neighbors, we don't send a voter guide ahead of elections to Idaho voters. Just not something Idaho does. But there's been a request to do this for years. And last year, the push for a voter guide, it failed in the legislature. Long story short, questions on cost and some other things, it stalled it. But Secretary of State Phil McGrain, he is back again this session with the new pitch, one that is gaining some national attention. It cleared committee and is now heading to the full Idaho Senate.
Information is power, and that sentence in an election year has a lot of connotations with it. In simple terms, though, Idaho's Secretary of State wants voters to have that power of information.
It's the most common request we get from voters is just they want information to know about when an election is, what they're going to be voting on, and I think most importantly, who they're going to be voting on.
Maybe you're talking to your screen right now. Is it possible? Is the Secretary of State talking about it?
The specific topic today is a state-issued voter guide.
Bright and early, right at 8 a.m. on a Friday, Secretary of State Phil McGrain pitched the highly anticipated legislation that would create an Idaho voter guide.
We hear from voters all the time who try to do their own research that using Google isn't always good enough because many of these candidates don't have websites, they don't have social media pages, so having a state-issued voter guide really helps get that information out to the public.
I'm excited about the potential for this for Idaho, and I'm looking forward to seeing if it is adopted, the positive impact.
Trey Grayson is the former Secretary of State in Kentucky. He now does work with the Secure Elections Project as the chair of their advisory board.
It's a nonprofit that works mostly with Republican Secretary of States in kind of red states across the country to try to improve election administration.
A big topic in that world, state-issued election guides. Grayson explains.
Especially today, when there's so much information out there, whether you can trust it or not, can you trust the media? Do you trust your neighbor? Having an official government publication with information compiled by candidates themselves, with some guidelines and rules in place to make sure that people are making accurate claims, it is a great way to provide some trusted information.
Information published to the people has also changed mediums, a major contributing factor to informing voters.
We've seen a decline in local daily and weekly newspapers. Those are the kind of publications that used to be able to cover this, but the business models don't work the way they used to. So we've seen this, in some respects, this is actually more necessary today. And it's also, it's not enough just to go out and vote. In an ideal world, you'd like to have some informed voters, and this is a tool. So it is kind of part and parcel with administrators trying to encourage people to get out there, but also have the information so they can make their own choices.
Secretary McGrain answered big questions in committee about the concept, like
What information goes in the voter guide? Who makes sure it's fair and balanced?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things is this would go out to every household in the state of Idaho. It's over 850,000 homes that would receive the voter guide. We've been able to figure out a way to keep the costs down in that distribution. And in terms of the information, it would be provided by the candidates. Every candidate would get 200 words and be able to provide basic information like where to go find out more about them.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're going to go look at those conversations that have taken place. So those safeguards have been tried out, and some of those kinks have been worked out in other states.
We aren't going to be censoring the information. We will provide some guidance up front because there are certain things like obscenities that we don't want to be included in the guide. But beyond that, it's really the candidates putting themselves forward. And I think it's important for voters to get to hear directly from the candidates.
So the goal is, if the legislation passes, they would want to put out this voter guide for the November general election. We'll keep you updated.